Welcome to the Produce Moms Podcast, where we believe there is a produce mom in all of us. I'm Lori Taylor, founder and CEO of the Produce Moms. For 10 years, I sold fresh produce to over 300 grocery stores in the U.S. And today, my team and I are fully focused on inspiring people to eat more fruits and vegetables. This show is just one of the ways that we hope to inspire you and your family to eat more produce and live a better life. If you like what you're hearing on the podcast, join our community of almost 40,000 in all 50 states and over 30 countries by visiting theproducemoms.com/subscribe. And be sure to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes. Thanks for being here. Enjoy today's show. Welcome back, everyone. This is the Produce Moms Podcast. It's the favorite part of my job. I didn't used to say that, but the more shows I host, the more I realize this is the best part about my job. The reason it's the best part about my job is because first and foremost, I learned so much. I know it's one reason why you all keep coming back, and we really appreciate it. I so appreciate all the kind comments, the reviews, and the ratings. Our audience in our community is just the absolute best. So thank you so much. And today, this episode is amazing. We are welcoming, it's the Farmlink Project. And for those of you that aren't familiar with the Farmlink Project, this is a movement that was started by college students as a result and a response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The mission of Farmlink is fighting food insecurity is our mission. Repurposing surplus produce is our solution. Amazing. So fighting food insecurity by repurposing surplus produce. Of course, I had to have them on the Produce Moms Podcast. This is right up my alley. And I know our whole community is going to be blown away. So we're welcoming two incredible guests from the Farmlink Project team. We have with us today, Jacob Dudley. He's a student at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. Go Badgers. He is also the co-lead of the Hunger and Outreach team. In addition to Jacob, we are welcoming Rani Zimand. And Rani is a student at the University of Washington in Seattle. Go Huskies. And she is the co-lead of the Farms team. So with that, Jacob, Rani, welcome to the show. Rani, we'll start with you. Please say hello and introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you so much, Lori. Hello, I'm Rani. I'm a student at UW Seattle studying food systems, nutrition, and health. And like Lori said, I'm one of the Farms team lead. That is the team that sources the produce for the Farmlink Project. So excited to be here.
Thank you, Rani. I'm thrilled you're here. And Jacob, welcome.
Hi there. Lori, just thank you so much for having us on. This is such a good opportunity to hopefully spread this message further. Just want to reiterate that. And I'm Jake. I'm as you said, student at University of Wisconsin Madison, the other UW, and I study economics and environmental studies, and I just could not resist the opportunity to get involved with Farmlink. Last summer, I think it really gave me a sense of agency when a lot of it was lost to the pandemic.
That's right. I love that. And Jake, you are the co-lead for the Hunger and Outreach team. So I want to get into more about what each of you do, but first we've got to discuss what is the Farmlink Project. So Rani, why don't you kick off the show by just identifying for us what is the Farmlink Project?
Absolutely. So we are a nonprofit that works to connect farmers with surplus produce around the country to food banks and other mutual aid or community organizations. So we're working on connecting that link across the supply chain.
That's great. And Jacob, so obviously this link exists, but how did you identify, so obviously it was pretty evident during the COVID-19 pandemic that there was a food shortage issue, like the produce supply chain, the agriculture supply chain, and so many other consumer product supply chains just were turned upside down in March of 2020. And then, of course, with so many people displaced, out of work, et cetera, food insecurity just skyrocketed in the United States. So how did you all identify that the Farmlink Project was the solution? or part of the solution for the food shortages and food insecurities?
Yeah. So as you stated just now, pretty much in March of last year, everything like restaurants was forced to close down. And because of that, the crops that farmers had planted to supply those restaurants and basically allow them to do their business, they had nowhere to go. So in the spring last year, you'd turn on the news and you'd see, as you were saying, like these massive lines at food banks, but you'd also see these farmers just throwing away all their produce. And Farmlink really is very much coming from a place of, we just want to make it more efficient. And we want to change. We want to basically shore up this part of the supply chain. And that was the original mission, but it's gone a little bit beyond that now. I think a part of our goal now, and this came a little bit from the Hunger and Outreach team and just from having conversations with a lot of different partners in the space, is we don't want to just like provide this aid and then head on off into the sunset. I think what we really want to do is solve this mission so we can make the supply chain efficient and not have to exist in this space. And to do that, it requires not just having Farmlink work well, but having everyone sort of be aware of it and learn what's going on and why we need to care about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, even on your website, it says something like, our goal is to put ourselves out of business because you want to solve the problem. So Jacob, how did you find out about it? Like, how did the Farmlink Project draw you in? Because you told me in our pre-show conversation, you started in June.
Yeah. So
June of 2020, I should reiterate, June of 2020 is when you started.
Exactly. So I was doing school from home online, most like all the students across the country. And I just finished that up. And actually it was through my sister who was friends and played on the same lacrosse team as one of the co-founders, who she was like, "Hey, I know you're not doing anything. I would love for you to get involved with this." And the more I read about it, the more I was like, wow, this is amazing. And it seems like a really, really awesome group of people. So I just said, hey, I would love to help out, and shot out my application and went through the interview process, and it went out really well. So it was really a great opportunity to get involved and to make a difference.
Yeah. So the founders, James and Aiden, they started like in April of 2020, right around when the pandemic, we realized this is much more than 14 days to stop the spread. And so you joined the team in June. And tell everyone with us a little bit more about what it means to be on the Hunger and Outreach team, because I feel like that is just at the apex of what the Farmlink Project is all about, is outreach and obviously solving hunger.
Yeah, it really is. I think we're just one little piece of what Farmlink does. We are the food bank and mutual aid facing part of the organization. So we're the ones in contact with anything we do with those parts of the food rescue space. What that basically looks like is, when food does come up, we're the ones making the calls and organizing with those places on how we're best going to serve them and how we're going to deliver them. And the way we've identified that is through food insecurity projection data from last year, and then also unemployment data from last year. Although as we've moved closer and closer and had to sort of tighten up our margins, it's become a part of our process to factor in transportation costs to try and move as much food as possible to as many places as possible, because the need really is everywhere now.
Yeah, it sure is. And Rani, I would say that with your job, co-lead of the farms team, you have to be more involved with perhaps the operations, or tell us a little bit more about what you do.
Absolutely. So the farms team at the Farmlink Project is the team that is kind of the first point of contact with all of the farms and producers in our network. We do outreach to those farms, and then we also manage relationships with some of our more consistent partnerships on the production end. So the way that we do our initial outreach is honestly one of my favorite parts of the Farmlink Project. We host these power hours that are open, very low barrier to entry volunteer opportunities for anyone and everyone, they can sign up for a power hour on our website and get involved. We have two types. We have research power hours where you can spend an hour researching farms and inputting them into our contact sheet. And then we have calling hours where we give you a script and all the information you need, and you spend the hour just calling and introducing yourselves and the Farmlink Project to farms around the country. So that's all of our sort of initial outreach. And then if we connect with people through those that have potentially surplus or unmarketable produce, then someone on my team will call back and then manage that relationship until it gets handed off to our logistics team.
And where are the farms located that you're calling?
Everywhere. We have contacted farms probably in all 50 states, and
Wow.
we've sourced from not quite all, but many of them at this point. We've always been a nationwide organization because, we originated online. We've always been online. So that's been really cool to get that sort of nationwide reach.
So let's walk us through the process, because your goal is you connect the farmers with the food banks all over the nation. So can you walk us through the process? So you said you have these power hours, and that's done with the farms team. And then what happens next?
Yeah, so the initial outreach is done with the farms team, like I said. And then once a price point has been negotiated or we've worked out the details of the donation of the produce, then it gets handed along to our deals and logistics team, who kind of thinks about the transportation and the logistics and handles like the paperwork of the deal. And then it gets handed along to Jake's team that places it.
Okay.
Yeah. So, as Ronnie was just saying, once it gets handed off to us, the placement process is fairly straightforward. We have an idea and the ability to calculate distance, as well as a lot of the research over the summer was focused on providing the up-to-date data on what was going on. And we try and keep that as up-to-date as possible with unemployment rate and food insecurity, and figure out the most impactful place to send it and make sure that that ends up working out and following through after the load has been dropped off.
Amazing. Yeah. And when you are on the farmlinkproject.org, you can click on the impact button, and it's amazing to see all the farms that you have supported. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, definitely. And our creative team makes it really easy to feel good about as well. They are all so insanely talented.
They are doing a great job. It's an incredible story. I'm so glad that we have connected. So to say you all have come a long way since late March, mid-April 2020, when this whole movement began, is quite the understatement. I mean, it's unbelievable what you've accomplished and how far you've come in about 12 months time, from, when we're talking now. And just tell us about the journey. I mean, Rani, when did you join the Farmlink Project? I know Jake has been with the team since June. When did you join the team?
Yeah, I actually joined in late May, but
Okay.
I was still in classes and doing other things until the end of June. And then I started in my current position as farms team lead at the beginning of September.
So are there more people joining the team? I mean, what's the current state at the Farmlink Project?
Yeah, we had our most recent round of interviews and onboarding right around the new year. They were onboarded in January. I think we have about, what would you say, Jake, like 150, maybe more members now?
That sounds about right.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you have in May, like literally just weeks after this being in the Farmlink Project being a thing, it took about 1 month for you guys to move 1 million pounds of produce. Do you know how many pounds of produce you've moved to date? I know the end of the year 2020 was 20 million pounds. So
I have that number for you actually right in front of my face. We have moved to date, and this is not counting this week,
okay,
27,301,053 pounds worth of fresh produce.
Oh my gosh. Like, I'm just going to clap into the microphone. Yay. Okay. So it's March 11th, 2021 when we are, recording. I'm sure that this will publish in a few weeks from now, but that's unbelievable. Say the number again one more time. You said 27?
27 million,
Wow.
301,000. Yeah.
Congratulations. And thank you. Most importantly. Wow. That has to feel amazing. So how do you guys, is everyone on the team a fellow college student as well?
Not everyone. We have a couple people that are, later on in their careers doing this on the side, a few people right out of college and a few high school students. But I would say, 90 to 95% of our full-time volunteers are college students right now, which is so awesome.
It is awesome. So that's really the only way this is able to happen is because, college students are volunteering to make it happen.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it goes without saying, like, one way you can get involved is if you want to volunteer, you're accepting applications for that, correct?
We're going to be accepting our next round of applications probably in a couple months to be onboarded for the summer. That's the plan right now.
So late spring, circle back. And then, so how else can folks get involved? I mean, I think, Jake, any comments on how people can get involved who are like, I don't know if I necessarily want to volunteer or can volunteer. That's a big commitment. How else can someone still support you all?
Absolutely. So the first way I would say is, and Ronnie touched on this earlier, would be power hours. So those are a very low barrier to entry, quick way to get involved. They're an hour each. They're given throughout the week. If you go on our website and you click volunteer, you can be a part of those. And that's where we research and call the farms that we end up sourcing produce from. That's a very direct way to get involved. I also would, if you have a little bit more time, I would very much recommend you to volunteer at a local food bank or a farm to get that experience. And that can be done through a couple of different websites like Wolf or HelpX. And then if you don't have the time, but maybe you want to give a few bucks, you can donate, set up your own fundraising campaign on the website. It's very easy. Our fundraising team has done a great job. And then finally, if you want to support it, otherwise, buying merch is great. Following us on all the social medias, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, at Farmlink Project, just to stay up to date, because there are some great informational graphics that we're able to post and get some people.
Yeah, and you guys have a pretty unique partnership with Chipotle as well. People can just round up when they're buying with the Farmlink Project is partnered with Chipotle. And when people are ordering on the app, they can just round up to the next highest dollar as a donation to the Farmlink Project.
Yeah. So we were so lucky to have that Roundup campaign with Chipotle. Unfortunately, it ended. We're not their partner with that anymore, but we had an incredible couple months with that. And
good.
It was amazing. It was so fun seeing our name on the app. And it was just such an incredible opportunity for us to get our name out there and do some fundraising.
Yeah, well, for sure. And thank you to Chipotle for that. And what about, and bring them back? I mean, my goodness, like, let's get them back on the app. And then what about, I think we also need to emphasize the only thing that you guys are matching up with food banks is fresh produce, correct?
Yeah, we've done a little bit of some milk, a little bit of eggs, but 99% of it is fresh produce.
Right. And if I remember correctly, the founder from the founder timeline and story, it started with eggs, correct?
It did. The James and Aiden founding story was they saw this problem and they were just like, again, we feel helpless. We got to do something. So they went and they rented a U-Haul, picked up some eggs from a farm and drove it to their local food bank. And that was sort of just how it began. And it's sort of grown into this Leviathan since then, which has been really fun to be a part of.
Well, it's definitely harvesting hope, which I know is an important adage and tagline for you all at the Farmlink Project. And that is exactly what you're doing, harvesting hope. And this podcast has a lot of people from the fruit and vegetable industry that tune in and that participate in it. and that lean into this for understanding like what new and exciting things are happening in our industry. Well, I think it goes without saying that the Farmlink Project is one of those things. So with that, I would love to welcome you both to share some closing remarks with the folks that are with us today. Before I turn the mic over to you for the goodbyes and closing remarks, I just want to thank you once again for what you do. I think it's remarkable that college students, and I'm not surprised. I mean, there are so many amazing ideas that happen. I mean, the passion and the purpose and this consumer mindset from your generation, it's pushing our industry to a higher place. It's pushing all consumer product industries to a higher place. People want to, I feel like your generation has done a very good job of telling the consumer products industry and the food and beverage industry, like, hey, we want to see we want dollars for good. We want actions for good. We want to solve worldly global problems in our local community. So I thank you for what you're doing. I look forward to following the success and the impact of the Farmlink Project. And I do hope that you guys reach that goal of putting yourselves out of business. I read that somewhere on your website and I thought that's an amazing way to put it. And there's a lot of passion in what you all do. So with that, Rani, I'd welcome you for closing remarks first, and then Jake will have you actually sign us off from the show and you can share your closing remarks at that time. So Rani, any final thoughts or things that you want to leave our audience with today?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Lori, for having us. And thank you to everyone listening. I'll say that our progress over this past year has been incredible and is thanks in such a large part to our volunteers and our supporters that have been following our progress over these incredible past few months. But I'll leave off by saying that while 27 million is a huge number and hard to wrap my head around, it's just a drop in the bucket. Over 70 billion pounds of produce is wasted in the United States each year. Over 20 billion of that is on the farm level, and we have a long ways to go. And so I encourage everyone listening to get involved and keep thinking about it and come to a power hour and check out our website. There's still a lot to be done.
Thank you. And Jacob?
Yeah. I want to reiterate what Rani just said. This is fantastic to be able to come onto this podcast and have this conversation and hopefully spread the word a little bit more. I think what we do is very much just a drop in the bucket, like Rani said, and beyond just getting involved directly with where we are in the supply chain. There's also steps you can take to reduce your own food waste footprint at home and what you do, and be more mindful of that. So that looks like buying produce that may look weird, but is the exact same, like maybe misshapen or something like that. That works to reduce 1% of your carbon footprint. Things like that allow for you to reduce your own food waste and make sure you're more mindful of that is again something you can do to have a huge impact.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Produce Moms Podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a featured guest, just send an email to lori@theproducemoms.com. We know there is a produce mom in you because there's a produce mom in all of us. Join our community on Facebook and all social platforms. Help us change the way America eats. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.